To hell with the hustle.
Oh, yeah.
Tell me about that book. Where did it come from and why did you write
that was 2 books ago. I wrote that 2017, and that was one of those weird books where, like, then COVID happens. You're like, oh, this book is more important now than, who would have known? Yeah, for me, let's see, I would have written that book when I was 27. I got little kids running around the house. I've been trying to do business stuff for 5 or 6 years, and it just started feeling like, man, I'm burning out.
Yeah.
I'm really just burning out. Like, I can't do all of it. I can't do a lot of it. And what it really just turned me towards is trying to, this big kind of research time, but also just like thinking through my own habits and rituals. Yeah. And like, man, for me, I started realizing like I started realizing basically how just like hustle and hurry, that was that era when that was really popular, remember? Like just hustle and grind and stay up till midnight, whatever. I just realized like that was actually killing me. That wasn't serving me, that was killing me. So I was like, okay, well, what is the actual antidote? And the actual antidote to me is like rhythm. I always think about, it's gonna be hard to explain for people who are listening just on audio, but the image I like to think of is there's historically, there's only 3 pictures of time. I talk about this in the book, which is really fascinating. So you have the Eastern view of time. This would go back to like, kind of Buddhist cultures, Eastern religions, the, very ancient East. Their vision of time is like a circle, right? With an arrow, but it's a circle. It's just an arrow going in a circle, right? And what this, there's no concept of future. There's no concept of past. It doesn't go anywhere. It's just, it stays in the same place and it goes around and around and around. That's where they get the concept of reincarnation, right? You die, you do it again, do it again, do it again, do it again. There's no future to it. And so what that leads to is passive being, right? You think about that and you're like, that would not give me any like grit. That wouldn't give me any ability to just charge, okay? That's not really any of us, but we're Western. So Western view of time would be a straight line arrow, right? Where it's just absolutely just shooting towards the future. Now what that produces is a lot of anxiety, because that's actually that's why in the West we're obsessed with bucket lists, because it's a line going straight. You can never go back. Yep. You can never go back. So you better put very good notches on that arrow that you're going to remember, or else it's going to be a really crappy life. So we're obsessed with bucket list memories, because we don't realize it, but our vision of time is a straight line that actually produces a ton of pressure. It's not a coincidence. A lot of our hearts metaphorically feel and sound like a ticking clock, because that's just how we view time, right? Just tick, tick, tick. That's why we're so anxious. That's why because you can't go back. You can't go back in our view of time, right? It's not rhythmic. There's no cadence to it. And so that leads to a life of endless doing. You just do, and you get tired, you get tired. I would say kind of the Jewish view of time actually, or what I would also say is the biblical view of time, kind of the ancient, more healthier view of time, is a spiral arrow going forward. So it goes forward. Coincidentally enough, the Jewish people were the first people in history to have a concept of the future. That's a fascinating thought to talk about. Yeah. Before them, there was no concept of the future. That was not a thing. Oh, wow. So the ancient, the Torah was kind of the first place to introduce that. So it's a spiral though, where yes, you're going forward. Yes, there is stuff to look forward to. Yes, there is hope. But a spiral does what? It goes forward, comes back, goes forward, comes back, goes forward, comes back. And to me, that's a really beautiful picture of how you actually want to live your life. And a word for that would be rhythms, right? Rhythms. That life is not about endlessly doing things on a bucket list, but life is about incrementally living and flourishing in a cadence and a rhythm that serves me well. Right? And so that could be a daily rhythm, weekly rhythm, yearly rhythm. But that's really where that book came from. The book is basically trying to explain how to go from that arrow to that spiral, and how and my argument is that spiral view of living is so much healthier on your heart, your mind, your marriage, your friendships, because it takes away a lot of pressure and anxiety, and it's incremental, right? When you live in a spiral, you're like, oh, I only need to be 1% better because I can get to try again next week. Yeah. I get to try again next week. I get to try again next week. When the arrow is like, oh man, I failed and I never get to go back.
Well, so let's talk about a concept in that book that that you and I both are big fans of, that's the idea of Sabbath. Yeah. Can we talk about Sabbath? What is, for those who maybe are unfamiliar with the concept, or maybe they've heard it just sounds like a religious thing. What is that, and why does that fit in with that?
Because I think to me, you go crazy 2 ways. So Sabbath is a day of rest, right? Sabbath is the kind of the ancient tradition of working for 6 days and taking 1 day of rest and marking it out, right? And we could do a whole rest of the episode on just Sabbath, because I geek out on Sabbath. I love Sabbath. Yeah, same. But here's the best way I would say to people listening, and they would probably agree with this just by their intuitive thinking, right? If you live every single day the same, you will go crazy. If you live every single day different, you will go crazy, right? We're actually I think we're biologically meant to live in a 6-1 rhythm, right? And, what's fascinating too, as I talk about this in the book, there's multiple societies in history that have tried to buck the 7-day week. We're going to really nerd out for a second. Can we do that?
Please.
Think about all of the circadian rhythms we have in our life, right? The daily, the yearly, all these things. Where do those, how do we measure those? They're all measured by an external reality, right? So how do we measure a day? How do we measure a day?
24 hours.
Yes, but like in astronomy, how do we measure it?
Sun up,
yep,
sun down.
Exactly. Sun up, sun down. Day, night, day, night, day, night. That's 24 hours. Okay. How do we measure a month? That one's a little harder. Lunar cycle, the moon.
Yep.
Okay. How do we measure a year? Trips around the sun. Trips around the sun. How do we measure a week? There's nothing.
Yeah.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah.
There's nothing. So that's fat. Why? That's really weird to me. So day has a very external reality. So does a month, right? A little bit wishy-washy with the lunar cycle, 29, 30, 31 days. The year, obviously, okay? There's nothing that externally makes us live in a weekly rhythm. But yet, human history has tried to buck it. You get French Revolution tried to do a 10-day week, went horribly wrong. Literally, people were dying left and right. Communist Russia went to a 5-day week, which what's your immediate interpretation when you hear a 5-day week? That should be actually easier.
Sure.
It's the same thing. Horribly wrong. Horribly wrong. People got sick. People are dying left and right. And just like they couldn't live in that rhythm. And so it's like, the only argument I can really say with that is like, it sounds like someone, AKA a creator, ordained some type of timeline on the week, and we just got to stick to it, right? Or we're meant for it. So it's kind of like music, right? Like rhythm is music. And so either you're dancing to the music and that will go well for you, or you're dancing and you're looking like the white guy at the wedding dancing against the music and it won't go well for you, right? Like the music is an external reality you need to dance to. And I think the 7-day week is like that.